To answer your question, I was at Albany, SUNY Albany, and I had been cast as Hamlet in the university production. They had a really good theater department. And Bobby Lewis was invited to be what they called the guest lecturer for a year. Now, when they announced this, all of the teachers were, Bobby Lewis is coming, Bobby Lewis is coming. Who's Bobby Lewis?
Yeah.
And
what year?
This was 1967.
Okay.
And the first thing, Dr. Pettit was the head of the department. And he said, well, he directed Brigadoon and Tea House of the August Moon and Witness for the Prosecution and all of these things. And he's probably the greatest acting teacher there is, ever. So all the acting students went, oh, boy. And he said, A, this is a chance to study with a great acting teacher, and B, maybe get a job, because we all wanted to work. So anyway, you had to audition for the class. And there must have been about 150 actors, many who had never been actors before, but said, oh, I'm going to start acting. You know? And they all wanted to audition. Pared it down to a group that could actually audition. You had to be an advanced acting student at the school to audition. That was about 40 people. But he only wanted about 8 to 10 in the class because he wanted to do specialized work. So I thought, oh my God, I'm not going to get in. There were some really, really fine actors there, and most of them had been playing lead roles for a couple of years already. So I worked up 2 scenes, one from Richard II, Shakespeare, and the other from the Zoo Story. And I went in and I auditioned and didn't sleep at all the night before. And then the next day I look on the wall and I was in, and very happy. And I thought, well, this will be an experience. What a build-up this man had. And then he lived up to everything. He came in, and it was like he started to talk, and everything was so clear. Everything he was saying was so easy to understand and put to use. If you were an actor, you knew, that's what I've been doing wrong. I was way off base, thinking this is what you do. And so it was inspiring right from the very beginning. And what he would do is he'd have each of the actors in the class pair up and do a 2-character scene to work on. Then he'd watch it. Then, when they finished doing the scene for the class, he would not allow any comments from the class. He said, you can't comment. You don't have the capability to judge other actors, your peers. So because his experience was that in his early classes, when he did allow it, people would say things that were so off base, and they would be criticizing actors who were so much better than them for stupid things. But anyway, Albany, while I was doing Hamlet, he coached me, which was a great opportunity, because here was one of the great acting teachers helping me do one of the great roles in the theater. And he didn't get into the interpretation because he wasn't the director. He didn't want to step on any toes. So what he would do is give me direction in terms of the approach to the role. For example, he had me build a whole background for Hamlet, what he did during the day, And the big question with Hamlet is he can't make up his mind. You know, to be or not to be, that is the question. And I can't make any choices. He said, why can't he make choices? You have to know why he can't make choices. You have to build the background as to why he can't make choices, so that when you deliver that speech, it's not just you're asking a question, but you've always been divided in terms of how you do things. It was that kind of thing. What does he do? What music does he like? You know, the background. He said, what you have to do is you have to use your imagination, because
this was never laid out by Shakespeare, right?
No. He said the imagination is the most important thing an actor has. He says because anybody can learn lines and walk from there to there and call themselves an actor. But to use your imagination as how you walk from there to there, or why, turns the ordinary actor into an artist. And he had a lot of examples. There was an actress, Maria Uspensky. Now she was in, I think, very little film of her, because she was big in the late 19th century. You know, still acting in the 30s, but she was in her 80s. And she was in The Werewolf. She was the old lady in The Werewolf. But she was in a role in this play in which the director said to her, speed it up, it's too slow. Now she was one of the first actresses that counted on what they call effective memory. That's where you're basically remembering things in your own personal experience and using them. And everything that she did was also had to be based on some reality. She couldn't just do it. And so saying, just speed it up. So she said she had two choices. She could tell the director, I can't just speed it up, because everything I've done I've worked out. Or I could just withdraw from the thing and say, well, I can't do it, so get somebody else. She said, I can't do either one of those things. I've got to find a way to do it. So she basically, I think this is in the book actually, she said, all right, there's a cab outside waiting for me. So everything I do, I have to get back to the cab. And so before, when she would walk over to the table and take off her gloves and do all of these things, she did twice as fast because she had to get out to the cab. But she had a reason in her head for doing it. And that was integral to her artistry. The first actress, the one they called the first modern actress, was Eleanor Duse. And she had worked with the Moscow Art Theater. And she had seen Sarah Bernhardt work. And Sarah Bernhardt was using herself, her own emotional life, to bring her characters to life. And that was something you didn't see anywhere. Not in Russia, not in America, nowhere. They were all... The important thing for an actor back then was to be heard and to be clear. What Duse did was she saw Sarah Bernhardt work, and she came back and she started doing that. And then Chekhov, who was the Russian playwright who did The Seagull and all these great plays, he started writing the plays for her. And so The Seagull, probably his most famous, was modeled right after her. And he brought that into the characterization of writing it. And then Stanislavski saw that and saw Duse work, started writing, oh, this is what she's doing. And that became the system. That was his system. What she's doing, she's using her own life and bringing a reality to it that wasn't there, that nobody else was doing. And Chekhov said he had never seen anything like it. It was a whole new theater. So Stanislavski wrote about all this. He wrote a book, and it came to the United States. And it was the first of 2 parts. And the group theater people all latched onto that first book, which had all to do with, well, you dig deep into your emotional memory and use painful experiences and all this stuff. And they latched onto that. And Bobby Lewis took the road not taken. And he said, wait a minute. First of all, you don't want to use painful experiences because you're a human being first. And if you start dredging up painful experiences, you're going to hurt your psyche. Especially if you do it 7 days a week and twice on Wednesday and Saturday. Doing that to yourself over and over, you're going to damage yourself. You can't do that. Use your imagination. Think about what it was like. Laurence Olivier in Marathon Man with Dustin Hoffman. You know, Dustin Hoffman goes off and spends the whole night staying up so that he can come in and play being tired. And Laurence Olivier goes, why couldn't you just act? Why did you have to go and do all that? You know, and that's what Bobby Lewis was saying. He was saying, you don't have to do all that. That's crazy. Just use your imagination. Imagination is the most important tool that the actor has. It's interesting watching the royal wedding today. The reason I bring it up is that the English theater was also greatly influenced by the group theater. What happened was Golden Boy, that's the one about the boxer, that was their most biggest hit out of the group theater. Was Golden Boy. Got the best reviews and the best audience, everything. And they went over to England in 1937 with the production of Golden Boy, with Bobby Lewis in it. And the English looked at this and went, my God. They called it gutsy. And they couldn't get over the fact that the Americans turned their backs on the audience. When they were acting, they actually turned their backs on the audience. And Bobby Lewis used to say, maybe they thought it was unusual because the royalty would be in the audience and you don't turn your back on the royalty. But for the Americans, of course you turn your back. You're not going to do the whole thing like this. You know, it's not real. You turn your back when you... So that revolutionized the English stage. All of a sudden, they were looking at what the Americans were doing and saying, and a woman named Joan Littlewood. She created a theater workshop very similar to Bobby Lewis's Westchester Laboratory Theater. It was the same kind of deal. You get the actors together, they do the work together for a period of time so they get to know each other and do repertory. They said it's the most significant theatrical experience in the history of the American theater.